Coming back to my definition, an African remains a native of Africa, a person, and especially a black person of African ancestry. Period. Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to yet another part of the African Consciousness series on Soitec Creations. It's a pleasure being with you. I love you all. Thank you for coming around. Remember to subscribe over there. If you've not done so, please do, so that you'll be part of my community. I'm looking forward to getting your subscription. Drop a comment right there below and make sure that you give a thumbs up on the other side. Just click it. Make sure it's thumbs up. Let's think as Africans. Let's try to understand things as Africans. Let's look back at rebuilding and reviving the African culture, the African way of life, rebuilding the values and value systems, the language, looking at African spirituality in all its confines. It's time for us to rebuild Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to African Consciousness. 2020 went, 2021 came, we saw it. A lot of groundwork is being done to see that we move into a more wonderful and more beautiful, more amazing 2022. Thank you so much. Wherever you're watching from, whatever country you may be, ladies and gentlemen, Corona is still not completely taken out there. It's still there in the picture. It's there in the horizon. As you go out there to enjoy the Christmas, to enjoy the wonderful end of year festivities and all the celebrations that are planned for this season, please be careful. Watch yourself. Watch your family. Watch those around you. Respect yourself. Respect others. And respect humanity. That will put us all together to build a wonderful, beautiful world that we can all participate, contribute our own quota to see that this world progresses, develops, and gets to a higher height of civilization without any race trying to lord over another, without any race being put under the table or under the bench or being trampled upon, without any race trying to be the master and the director of the agenda in this global setting. What is wrong with the African consciousness as it is today? What was? What is happening today? Where are we heading to? What can we do to make things good or better than they were yesterday? By the way, it looks as if yesterday was even better than today. So, what went wrong and where did it go wrong? So these are some of the questions we're going to be discussing and trying to understand today, shedding some light from economics to politics to religion to science, what have you. And I am not an expert in these areas, but the little I know, the little I'm conscious of, I'm going to share with you. Who is an African? Because if we're talking of African consciousness, who is an African? Basically, An African is a native of Africa, a person, and especially a black person of African ancestry. A person from Africa, a black person, and most especially a black person of African ancestry. Even amongst those who are dark-skinned, Africa or Africans come in different shades of black. Africans come in different shades of black. Take a look at the screen. Tell me what you see. Going back to history, we learned that you had the pygmies around the Congo Basin. So you had Gabon, Congo, Zimbabwe, around that area. Then you had the Nilotic people who were somewhere around Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, that area there, the Nilotic people. And you had those who were coming from the West Africa, plus the Bantus who were all around that area. So these are the different groups that were around the continent early. And as time went on, they were all intermarrying each other, and the population was growing and increasing. That's one part. Then you had Europeans who were stepping over from Europe through Spain into the continent. You had like the Romans, you had Arabs, you had the Romans who were coming into Africa. Now, this was as a result of the intention to make wars, to conquer, to have new lands. If you read about, of course, if you read ancient history, here read about the Greek civilization, read about Roman civilization and their empires, you will see all of that. So there were times when they will come into Africa, they will conquer an area, they will create a province like they created in Carthage, and so it all grew up. Baseline, at a point, intermarriages between the Arabs and Africans happened. Intermarriage between the Romans and Africans, the Greeks and Africans, the Spaniards and Africans. So you find Europeans and people of fair skin coming into Africa. Now when they intermarry, they had children, and these children had the black DNA in them. And that made them Africans. Because as you say, race is a social construct. The whole thing goes about people building, developing over time, groups and different persons coming together. And when they come together, they build an environment and define that environment and give it a name. The other side, we find the situation where as a result of wars, many Africans were taken as slaves. Partly the wars, partly the slave trade itself. They were taken as slaves to different parts of the world. Some went to the Americas, some went up north to Egypt, and from Egypt to Greece. Some went up as far as Russia. Like if you go back to look at the history of the Pushkins, there is a family there, the Pushkins in Russia. Their ancestry can be traced back to Africa. And to tell you something, you may never have heard this before. The father of the Pushkins was a man who actually was born in Cameroon. Yes, you never knew of this? Okay, today you know. Now, if you go back many years ago, the first Duke of Florence was a black man. There was even a time that a black woman was the Queen of England. Did you ever read about this in history? You never? Okay. We all have a time when we learn something new. So, you heard something new? Go find out more about it. Drop your comments and let's discuss more on that. Well, I am not here to talk about those who ruled before. I'm here to say Africans were taken to different parts of the world. Many of them ended up in America, some to the south, some to central, some to the north of America. And as we speak today, you have Africans in basically almost, I think all the continents, yes, all the continents, you find Africans. In almost all the countries on earth, you have Africans there. And wherever they are, sad to say, their story remains the same. Their story remains the same. So this discussion about race, it has a generic factor, and we can also see it as a social construct, as I said before. Coming back to my definition, an African remains a native of Africa, a person, and especially a black person of African ancestry, period. When we look back through books and documented information, Africa's identity focused on being with as opposed to Western individualism. Again, African identity focused on being with, that's people being working together, hand in glove, working hand in hand, people staying in communities and small groups and working closely together. They focused on being with as opposed to the Western idea of individualism. There was more of communalism, people working together, communities working together to raise children, working together to support each other, to make sure that projects are implemented, things are done as group and at group levels. Even as we speak today, in some communities back in Africa, when you go to the rural areas, you still find villages coming together. They tell you today is a day, they'll call it community work. When it's community work, all the men will be going to such and such part of the town to clear the grass or to clear the bush. All the women will be going to arrange such and such a place. All the boys from this age to that age will be going to this and this place or this and that place to do such and such a thing. It still happens. Communalism as opposed to collectivism. It is ours, yet everybody scrambles to pick their own portion and run away with it. The identity of Africa is rooted in familyhood. Africa, you find a man, you find a woman, you find a family, and then you have the family unit, and then you have families, you have the village, a very solid unit. This village, you have bigger communities, much more than 50, 100, 200 persons, all tied together by certain values, certain bonds. That is what used to be, where people will say yes, and they meant yes, and they faced the challenge with one voice. That didn't mean there were no traitors, there were no blacklegs. No, there were people. There's always a black sheep in every family. So definitely, even in African societies back then, you had those exceptions. Those exceptions existed. However, our focus is on Africa and the African consciousness. The question now is, what happened before? And why did the rain start beating us where it started? What happened? Thank you for your time. Thank you for today. Thank you for listening to this part. They're getting to the end of this session. I hope you complete all the 4 series. Please do not forget, try to make sure you watch all the 4 and drop me your comments, send in your feedback.